But 2025, I genuinely think that, with a lot of uncertainty removed, I do think people will have confidence to get out there and buy.
Well, here we are in 2025. We come together to look back at last year, talk about the market, and think about some of the themes and anticipation for this year. The element that was where there was a fall in transactions was in that mid-market for us, in terms of the sort of £5 to £10 million area, lovely, large country houses. The sort of £2 to £5 million market was stronger, more needs-based perhaps. So it was sort of discretionary buyers at the upper end who were going to buy anyway because they really weren't that bothered by the budget and by the election, and the needs-based at the lower end.
Very, very similar to London, actually. A very, very similar pattern again. Right at the upper end, the sort of north of £20 million range. We saw, a really decent amount of activity. Yes, it was down on 2023, but it was only down by about 5%. It's really that sort of what we would describe as middle market, the sort of £5 to £10 million market that we found to be a little bit sticky. I did a bit of client work for a developer client back in November, and they asked me to sort of drill down into the various postcodes in London and let them know how many top-end transactions has happened in those postcodes. And I think both myself and my client were very shocked to understand that there hadn't been a single transaction north of £30 million in SW1, which covers the majority, all of Belgravia and the majority of Knightsbridge. And that is a market that would normally see somewhere in the region of sort of 7 to 10 transactions north of £30 million in an average year. Between the 15th of December and the 31st of December, so literally a 2-week period, we actually exchanged contracts on 3 houses in that postcode SW1 north of £30 million, which has given us all a great deal of positivity, an injection of much needed positivity.
There's been quite a significant activity in the traditional estate market. So it's really, actually not so much in the Cotswolds, it's been elsewhere. It's been outside the Cotswolds, throughout the home counties, up into other areas where you have an attractive amenity property, beautiful houses, where buyers have been, at the over 20 million plus level, where buyers have been attracted by the privacy, by the protection, by the lifestyle. The percentage of private to public deals, there were more public deals. The deals that were done, there was a higher percentage was publicly advertised than last year, which suggests a softer market generally. The one exception for us was the Cotswolds, which was stronger, I think, in the private than it was public last year and the year before, which I think really just represents what an amazing sort of bubble market it is there. It's very, very strong, and if you've got the right product and it's in good condition, you can sell it for good money. This
is the sort of Soho House, Soho Farmhouse, Estelle Manor effect.
Buyers like to see that there is somewhere to go to, somewhere they can replicate some of their lifestyle choices in London. They can replicate when they go out to the country. 35% or so of our buyers over 10 million are from abroad. There have been some Americans, there have been some from further afield, Asia and so forth, but UK, Europe has been the bread and butter.
I think one thing we have noticed, especially sort of in this sort of post-budget last quarter of last year, is that we have seen a pretty sizable increase in the amount of UK-based buyers buying at the upper levels of the London market, which has been very interesting.
So in terms of those buyers, we were talking about 35% of the market in the country, 65 or so in London being international. Now we're getting those from our contacts across Europe, in the private office and so forth. Have you seen an increased activity from America, for example?
Yeah, and I think again this is where our private office network is so vital. Having a dedicated North America desk has been incredibly vital for us. We've all seen certainly over the last 5 years, but certainly I suppose in a more sort of condensed manner since the pandemic, we've all seen a big rise in purchases from America. And having this dedicated North American desk has been really, really helpful and indeed crucial. I think again, you know, having a very strong Savills representation out in the Middle East has been key, and again in Asia.
Massively so.
Yeah, and you can see an obvious capital flow, I think, now, you know, from the States into Europe via London, down into sort of Paris, the Alps, Monaco. And, you know, we're very lucky that we are, you know, very, very strong in terms of our presence in the majority of those locations. And it really is, you know, it is paying dividends, the fact that we have got this this private office team with immense knowledge and huge experience. But 2025, I genuinely think that, you know, with a lot of uncertainty removed, I do think people will have confidence to get out there and buy. I think vendors need to be pragmatic. I think they need to, if they want to sell, they need to look like they want to sell. I think purchasers also need to be slightly more cavalier. I think purchasers can't be afraid about, you know, if they want to purchase a property, to actually articulate that by way of an offer. You know, don't be afraid to put your best foot forward. I think, you know, if we do see the interest rate cuts that a lot of commentators are yet again saying that we're going to experience, then I think that'll give a boost to the market. And I think the other thing is that we're very, very lucky. You know, the UK is still seen as being a very desirable place to live for all the reasons that we always regale. And I think the other thing is there's so much uncertainty everywhere else in the world. And I think, you know, when there's uncertainty, the UK always tends to benefit.
From a country perspective in 2025, very similar thoughts to yourself. There are different elements of our country market. You know, land prices is one element, and there's an expectation that there may be some softening in the market. I think that will be short term if it is. The question is whether there'll be some people that will sell their land, you know, as a result of some of these budget announcements. There may be a small pickup. It's a very, very low turnover year last year. In our view, there's plenty of demand out there, and if there is a softening, it will be a short-term softening, and it won't last probably beyond next year. So Alex, as joint head of the private office, is there one quick message for buyers and sellers for 2025?
I think the messaging for me is be pragmatic, whether you're a buyer or a seller. Be realistic, be positive. You know, the market is a smaller place now, but it's still a very good place to do business. And from a private office perspective, obviously, first and foremost, we're here to help, whether it's from a domestic or an international perspective. If you've got any questions whatsoever, please do get in touch.